where I think the Welsh Government, but more importantly, the people of Wales have been let down by this spending review. Firstly, as others have mentioned, the national insurance shortfall in Wales, that still hasn't been addressed. While the Welsh Government has pulled from its reserves for this year, this shortfall cannot happen every year. That means the UK Government is essentially forcing Wales to make cuts elsewhere, cuts that will not have to be made by any other nation in the UK. Not much thanks to the only nation that has consistently kept the Labour Party in government over the decades. Secondly, the cuts to benefits will impact the Welsh economy and the Welsh Government budget. By limiting PIP, access to PIP, the Chancellor will be reducing the monthly support for a single person on universal credit without children to only £421.14 per month, a huge 68% reduction in household income. A report by Policy and Practice has found that 190,000 people in Wales will be affected. That's 6.1% of our population, and will lead to a loss of £470 million from the Welsh economy. However, of course, we will face an even greater impact than simply the money not being able to be spent in our local communities. We will be pushing people deeper into poverty. The Chancellor will start a terrible domino effect of suffering, of homelessness, poor physical health, poor educational outcomes, mental health issues, and family breakdown. In her spending review, the Chancellor said this: austerity was a destructive choice for the fabric of our society. Well, the negative effect of this decision will have on the people of Wales, who are already on average sicker, poorer, and older than the rest of the UK, is also a destructive choice for the fabric of our Welsh society. Yet again, we have another UK government who are happy to balance the books at the expense of the Welsh Government, but more devastatingly, at the expense of the people of Wales. Thirdly, the ongoing inequality of power over borrowing. The Chancellor's economic principles on borrowing for capital investments are also not passed on to Wales. Following her own rules, the UK Government can borrow billions more for capital investment. But the Welsh Government borrowing powers remain relatively small with no change. Currently, local authorities have vastly more borrowing powers than the Welsh Government relative to the population we serve. Now, Welsh Government, in fairness, have innovated around this with the mutual investment models. But this means we are effectively paying an interest rate to private companies. This is much higher than what we would pay if we could borrow the same way as the UK Government. If the Welsh way of borrowing was cheaper, then surely the UK Government would follow suit. Effectively, Wales has to pay more money to invest. Fourthly, the cuts to fund defence. That is a choice. The Chancellor's borrowing rules are self-imposed, and they can be different. We don't have to cut the income of the poor and the disabled in our society to fund defence, to fund arms. That is a political choice. If we look at Germany, they have voted to exempt defence spending from their fiscal rules. They protect their citizens from both poverty and also the potential threat posed by Russia. Now, finally, choosing who bears the burden of cuts to benefits. The Chancellor has reversed her decision on winter fuel allowance for incomes below £35,000. However, in my opinion, this is clearly a votes-based decision and not a needs-based decision. Among all groups, children are the most likely to be in poverty, as Sinead Williams has already highlighted. 30% of children in the UK living in poverty, compared to 16% of pensioners. Now, the cynic might say that this is because pensioners vote and children do not, that the winter fuel allowance was reinstated whilst the cruel two-child benefit cap still remains. And I do finish with this, Dirprwy Llywydd. This might not be an actually popular statement, but realistically, there are children in Wales that need support far more than pensioners with an annual income of slightly under 35,000. And I think we can all agree that support should be targeted on the needs-based rather than who is likely to vote in an election. Diolch yn fawr.